Hello to all my Rover subscribers as usual. It is the evening here and this video has gone out at the usual time at 6 o'clock. My special time. I don't know why I picked that time, but yeah, I've kind of stuck with that since buying this car and it kind of works. Since the Pride of Longbridge and since the slight hiccup of a blown fuse and a cracked windscreen, which will be sorted soon, Project Beatrix is in full health and she is running absolutely spot on. And I thought I would just give a little bit of a perspective on basically how I feel it's gone so far in terms of my ownership of the car. This car has been incredibly reliable the last month. I mean, literally, the only hiccup we have had is a blown fuse. And I definitely know what caused that. There is a little cap on the alternator positive cable. Unfortunately, that cap fell off. And what I might have done during the cleaning process is, please don't ask me why I was holding a screwdriver while cleaning, but I was actually tightening something up with a screwdriver and I may have caused a slight short. That is something that I must have done at quite a random time. I'm not quite sure why it happened the day after the Pride of Longbridge. I'm pretty sure that probably wouldn't have caused it, but it's the only thing that I can think of. The battery was connected and I was really silly. That was my error. But I'm not sure why it would have happened on a different day than, well, when I cleaned it prior to going to the Pride of Longbridge. Maybe it was just something that was going to blow. Maybe the fuse was weakened. I don't believe that, but there's not many there are not many reasons why that would have happened, and it hasn't happened since. I've driven it another few hundred miles since then, commuting to work, going about my daily business, and no issues whatsoever. It starts on the button as always. The gearbox is nice and smooth. The engine is like a Swiss watch. I've got that engine to an absolute T, and the engine oil is like, oh, it's like water. It's literally like brand new engine oil because of the amount of gunk I managed to remove from the engine. I doubt that there's any gunk left in that engine now. That's how good it is. In fact, I would suspect the only gunk left is what's in that oil filter, potentially on the startup of the car where it might have disturbed some sludge and it's gone into the filter. That filter will be changed again probably in a few months' time, as I suggested before. But what have I made of the actual ownership so far since I've started driving it as opposed to rebuilding it from scratch? Brilliant. I've loved this car. I am really amazed at how nice it drives and how comfortable it is. I was not expecting this to be something that I could compare to my Mark 1 Focus. I'm afraid this is actually just as good a car. I know my Mark 1 followers are going to completely switch off at this stage, but it really, in terms of a car to drive and how enjoyable it is to drive, this is as good as any other car that I have driven, especially my Mark 1. The driving experience is refined, it is comfortable, it is smooth. There really isn't any complaints about this car, and I'm deeply suspecting, being the late model, they did do some stiffening either on the dampers or springs, which is what differs this from the Honda Civic of the same age. And of course you have some quirks. I mean, you've got common issues like this that you've got to be aware about. The door handles are a bit funny. The execution is not brilliant. The quality of the plastics, as I said before, isn't brilliant. There are some things like the carpets, you know, that were cheapened over time. Project Drive ate into a lot of things, but the seats are more comfortable than my Mark 1. These are actually the most comfortable seats I've sat in of any car, and that says something possibly about how comfortable the earlier Rover 75 seats were in the 45s. You know, everything is really nice to touch. The controls are to your hand. These wiper stalks, which date from what, the Rover R8, they are quality. In fact, I think it was from the original Rover 200. This is just absolute quality, but the execution is a bit cheap, but we'll ignore the execution because the aesthetics are top notch. I love the gauges, classic, but of 2004 it looks retro classic. It's perfect for this type of car. I mean, this material, this suede material on the door cards, lovely material, even though, you know, some of my repairs are going well. I believe the back door, I might have to have a look at it again because it's gone again, but again, this sort of thing happens all the time. That door's fared quite nicely, and that one has as well. There is no complaints. The back seats are really comfortable. I mean, that is comfortable foam. I'm really impressed by that. I have no doubt that I am going to have some teething problems going forwards. I mean, we have got to look at the CV boots. That is my next job. I will be replacing them with some CV boots, whether I can get some Rover 45 equivalents to what's fitted originally, or some universal ones that you have to cut up. They work equally as well, and you just make sure that everything is protected. But apart from that, there really isn't much that needs to be done to this car, so the videos will be a little bit more slower. But anyway, I am going to take it on a very nice drive because I think, as we can see in here, yeah, I'm running a bit low on fuel, so I better top that up before I have any starvation issues. Apart from the crack in the windscreen, which seems to have just minutely got bigger, everything's working. The lights, and let's go and get fuel before my car starts spluttering all over the place. I do like the parking sensors on this car. They do tend to beep when you're going out your driveway and the road is kind of sticking up at an angle, telling you that there's something. There you go, there's nothing behind me. Now there is. Oh, God. Go. And it kicks into revert, it kicks into drive, sorry, and off we go. Easy as you like indeed. The brake discs are still making a noise. I may replace them, but they are making less of a noise than what they did before. It's because that disc on that side is slightly scored and this disc is not brilliant. I may just replace both. I mean, most people would probably say, why didn't you change both when you changed the calipers and did all the pads and everything? Ideally, yes, and normally I would, but there was so much I was buying for this car. It is just another expense that I just didn't have the money for at the time. Come on, you bloody Audi Q4 slow coach. And the low fuel warning level has actually come on the dashboard. It usually, the fuel gauge in this car is really poor. I don't know if any other 45 owners have this issue. I'm pretty sure you probably do. The fuel sender is a bit, well, it takes minutes for it to get to where it probably is in terms of the fuel level. Mine certainly takes an age, which is just weird. And then it finds where the fuel level is probably sitting at, and then you turn the car off because you're going to the petrol station or you've pulled up, and then it takes minutes for it to get back to where it should be. It gives you a false reading. You go around a roundabout and it probably tells you for about a minute or two that you've got more fuel than what you have, and then it comes back down. You cannot trust this fuel gauge at all. And there we go, the light's gone off. Hey presto, we're going up a hill and the light's gone off. How accurate is that? That is one thing I have not liked about this car. It's just not very accurate. It gives you an idea, but really don't trust it as gospel, which is why I'm now going to the station as soon as that light comes on. Hear that? That is gorgeous. Pure gorgeous sound. That is the sound you only get in a CVT. And the brakes are really good. Brakes are fantastic on this thing. Go. And the pickup, it's not just sound. In a normal automatic with a torque converter, you get sound, but you don't really get performance, you don't really get movement. In the CVT, you absolutely do. This is a wonderful gearbox, and I've got no issues about this particular unit. If there were any issues, it would have probably highlighted it to me by now, most presumably. The indicator sound is very nice. It's just a nice audible tick. It's not a fake electric sound that you get in a Mark 1 Focus, for instance, and many Fords of this age. It's just a nice mechanical relay clicking sound. Very satisfying. Oh, and trust me to turn up when the fuel wagon has just pulled up. Let's go in. Actually, do you know what? I decided I'm going to go to a different fuel station. Let's take this car on a slightly longer drive. It needs it. I always put the gearbox into neutral. This is a thing with CVTs. Put them into neutral. Let the clutch packs cool. Don't keep it in D in stationary. And then you put it in D when you go off. Come on. I think I would leave quite a few people fairly surprised by the performance of this at the traffic lights. Naturally, I haven't tested it to that point yet because I am a safe and responsible driver, and I certainly do not put my foot down at the traffic lights when basically standing adjacent to a boy racer. But it'd be very tempting, especially given the fact that this is a Rover 45, which most people would generally see as a granddad's old pipes and slippers car, and it wouldn't have any punch whatsoever off the line. That would be quite interesting. In terms of usability in this car, the heating controls are good. I have yet to put aircon gas in this car. I will be doing that at some point before it becomes extremely hot. It's starting to warm up at this time of the year, so I'm quite conscious of getting that job done. My Bluetooth radio goes nice in the dashboard. It's working perfectly fine. There's no problems with any of the electrics. Everything works. Everything works in this car. There is nothing that doesn't work. All the windows work, and hopefully because of the fact that I've greased all the windows and made them nice and slippy on the runners, hopefully they'll never stick to the point where they fail, unlike in many other Rovers. It just sweeps along the road. It just wafts. If you want a Rover 45 that wafts just like a Rover 75, and I would say a Rover 75 is a wafting barge, it's nothing more than that as far as I'm aware. I've never owned one, and I don't think I'm best placed to actually talk about a Rover 75, but I think I'm glad I bought a 45 instead. But I would recommend a Rover 45 as the ultimate wafting barge in the 1.8 CVT form. Yes, naturally you can get a 1.8 manual. They are very hard to come by though, I will tell you that. But in a CVT form, it actually quite suits the engine. I think the most annoying thing about this car when driving it is that drive plate. It is a common fault on these. They do rattle. I've said it numerous times, and I will probably look to getting it done next year. It isn't cheap. You can buy the uprated version, which is around £230 from what I've been told, and that's just the part. If you want somebody to fit it, well, you're looking at the price of what it would cost to change a normal clutch. Essentially, you are disconnecting the gearbox from the engine. It's no different to what you would do in a manual. That's somewhat disappointing given the fact it's an automatic. You buy an automatic and you think that you'd never have to do those sort of jobs. It's basically just, if you look after the gearbox and change the fluid, you should never have to worry about that sort of thing. Unfortunately, in the CVT, it is a thing. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I don't think mine is going to fail. I think it's just an annoying chirpy sound at lower RPMs that it's there and you know it's there, but it's quite annoying, and it just rather just take away from the actually what is a rather perfect driving experience in my opinion. And I am quite picky. You at the petrol station, do forgive the sun in the camera if it is affecting the camera. And this is where I have to remember what side is my fuel filler. It's on this side. I keep doing that because on my Mark 1 Focus and my, oh no, hold on, that's not it. Yeah, I'll put some V-power in this thing. Must put some V-power in. No, in my P6 it was on that side as well. So it seems to be a Rover thing where the fuel caps are on that side of the car. Or maybe that was just a coincidence and that was a Honda choice. Right, now, before you ask, my potion of choice is this, okay? Now, I was getting some stuttering issues within the first week of running this car after that MOT pass. And I will tell you, the stuttering, I suspect, was more likely dirt around an injector. Well, this stuff, people say it is snake oil. Well, unless some minor miracle has happened and somehow the problem has vanished, I think this stuff has done the trick. I used half the bottle, and that was the last tank of fuel I put in the car, which was about a month ago. It says how much I've used this car recently. I am now going to put a load, well, I'm probably going to put the rest of this bottle in and let it just soak up. And I think it's really important in a car with a steel fuel tank. And yeah, Rover, probably the only car company still using steel fuel tanks. In 2005 it would have been. Unbelievable. And unlike every other car channel, we've got to have some commentary on the fuel pump. And of course Andrew's going to come around the side, yes, and he's just deciding which one he wants to use. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Got to use V-power, that's best for this car. Come on Andrew, take your nozzle out, stop faffing around. Yes, we know it's that one, it's V-power, you can see it. Get your fuel cap off, and oh, what am I doing? I'll just put it on the side. Yes, need that later. Right, let's get your nozzle out and show everybody the nozzle, Andrew. Yeah, that's definitely the price. Don't faint. £1.65, it's too much. And now, yeah, we've got to wait for the attendant to wake up. Is he asleep? Come on. Come on. He's definitely asleep. Oh, he's woken up. Fantastic. Lovely, lovely. Let's get that fuel right in that neck. Oh, dear me. It's already gone to £1 before you've even pressed the trigger. I swear that is a common fault these days. They always do this. Just waiting for it. Come on, it's not going in quick enough. Gotta rush, got things to do. Gotta like cut my toenails at home. Come on. Yes, come on. It's going up too quickly these days, to be honest. Look at that. Oh no, I meant to stop at 20. Now I can't stop at 24p. No, we've got to keep going then. We've got to go to a round number. Maybe 25? I don't know. Maybe we went a bit more than that. Come on. No, let's go a bit more than that, Andrew. Let's just go for it. Let's put 30 in. Nice round number. Go for it. Put lots of fuel in. Come on. Oh, I can't be bothered at this stage, and I'll just Yeah, well, £30, 11p. Oh, it's alright, I'm paying on the direct debit, it doesn't matter. My debit card, I should say. And I'm putting some Red X in. Yeah, we've got to put some Red X in. Yeah, I know, they're stealing bastards. There we go, we'll put some Red X in. Down the filler neck. That's all good. Brilliant. Right. Is that it? Yep. And, yep, that's all gone in. It's nice and empty. Fantastic. Now it's time to pay Andrew. Get on with it. Go away. And once again, the fuel gauge takes about, it's going to take 20 million years to register where it should be. It's telling me that I've only put a smidgen of fuel in, which I know is totally 100% false. Let's get out of here. Let's not smash into the BMW. I don't like them. Let's not smash them up. Must forgive the fact that BMW stole the Mini off the British motoring industry. It is, the sun is setting, so we are going to get some weird sun reflections. I do apologise in advance, ladies and gentlemen. And now let's just put our phone down and get going. I prefer to do the least editing possible on these sort of videos because, quite frankly, my priority is not crashing into people while driving. So my overall picture, an overview of this car so far, is one of pure delight and surprise, because I think for me the 45 is a very understated car and very underrated car. I'm not sure why. Maybe because of the name Rover. Maybe if it was badged as a Ford, it wouldn't be revered in such a way. That's not me being funny, that's probably fact more than anything else. Because of that underrated value, these are cheap, very cheap, and they will maintain that unrealistic low value, I should say. And I suspect that's why many of these have gone to the way of the wind, because the values are so low. People just don't think that it's worth spending more than a few pennies on them. And the fuel gauge is actually, yes, it's gone back to the way it should be. It's actually sitting just below halfway, which is precisely where I wanted to put it. Fantastic. All that nice Red X going through the system to hopefully clean out more crap that may be sitting in the tank. I have no idea. Maybe I should do that one day. I should actually put my micro camera up the fuel filler neck, or while the fuel pipes go, and have a look inside the tank and see how rusty it might be. But this car gives me absolute confidence on the roads. It just gives me every sense of reliability. I've given it every chance. I've done a complete head gasket repair top to bottom, so everything from cleaning the tappets to the uprated oil rail at the bottom of the engine, everything in between, it was done properly, it was done to the book, and it has worked perfectionly since. No issues. And if you do things properly on any car, it will look after you. I suspect that Rovers, particularly the K series, need a bit more looking after, but certainly a well looked after one will function absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever. And actually that's quite unsurprising in that respect, because the Rover 45, I believe, topped the reliability charts between 2001 and 2003 consistently, and that's saying something when you put it against a Mark 1 Focus, for instance. That a Mark 1 Focus is probably as reliable as a car you will get from this sort of age. There are just as reliable cars that I am missing about. I don't want to be naturally dismissive, but this is Fords and Rovers, and quite frankly, I can't be bothered to talk about other cars. Just the way the wishbone suspension at the front handles the bumps, it's far superior to the Matheson struts that I've experienced in the past. The independent rear suspension is just brilliant. Honda got it absolutely spot on, and no wonder that Honda actually kept this suspension in production a good 15 years without tweaking it whatsoever. Ford did the same with the control blade suspension, first introduced in the Focus, and it pretty much stayed the same way for almost 20 years before Ford decided to bin it in the latest Focus, which I'm not happy about at all. Honda did exactly the same with this. 15 years that they didn't mess with it. They put this on almost every single one of their cars, and I can understand why. It's actually a very simple multi-link rear suspension, and for a car in this price bracket, that wasn't always a gimmick. I mean, what impresses me more than anything else is not necessarily the driving dynamics. I mean, there is slight more wallowiness than I can get in other cars, but only fractionally. What amazes me is the build quality. Despite the flawed execution of the plastics and some of the parts in this interior, there's no rattles and creaks. There's nothing. It is literally as quiet as a Rolls Royce in here. I'm not joking. There is no trim in this interior that rattles. Have I got a good car? Or is this how good the quality was at Rover? So when people tell me that the quality actually went apart, I'm not quite sure what sort of quality they were talking about. Yes, it might be the fit and finish of some of these components, but in terms of how they stand when you're driving the car, I think how much an interior rattles is a very good sign of the quality of a car. What I love about this car as well is just the fact that it's 19 years old this year, and actually I get more looks in this Rover than I do in my Focus, which is weird because you'd think the Focus was, well, it's an older car for a start, well, only a couple of years younger. In example, I mean, the two cars were sold side by side for many years, but this gets more looks. I suspect it's because Rover 45s are just a rare sight now. You do not see them as much as Mark 1 Focuses that you may find at the side of the road. As I say, I'm doing a lot of comparisons with the Mark 1, and there is a reason for that. They were sold together, they were rivals for many years, and naturally there is, of course, a comparison in the way they drive. I didn't think I would be comparing both cars, but I actually am, and that is probably an example of just how good this car actually is. Just the way it just rides over the bumps. The driving position is comfortable. Everything feels comfortable. I'd say this driving position is the compromise between not being too low but not being very high at all. But the driving position is extremely commanding. You feel as if that you're not sitting in the car or on the car. You've just got a nice hand to whatever is going on, and that's exactly where you need to be. For me, that's my kind of driving position. I don't like anything too high, don't like anything too low. It's just not comfortable for me. Anyway, I am going to leave you here. I'm not far away from my house, and it's been a very long day, but this car has been absolutely amazing since I've owned it and started driving it properly, and it's just purring away. And quite frankly, it's a testament to, well, possibly my work, but the truth is I suspect that this was the car underneath the surface of a very battered car that I found 8 months ago, and I hope that this will serve me a long time, and I've got every confidence that it will do so, and that is quite a testament to Rover. Anyway, you take care, guys. I will see you very soon.